Syria shot down a Turkish F-4 fighter plane like this one, prompting Ankara to call for a meeting of NATO envoys in Brussels. NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen.
We consider this act to be unacceptable and condemn it in the strongest terms. It is another example of the Syrian authorities' disregard for international norms, peace and security, and human life.
Patrol boats have searched the eastern Mediterranean where the plane went down, but so far have not found the 2 Turkish pilots who were on board. Western military analysts say, unlike the fighting in Libya last year when NATO planes enforced a no-fly zone, the alliance is not expected to become involved in the Syrian conflict soon. Andrew Tabler is a senior fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy.
I think it's partially just fatigue. You know, they intervened in Libya, and now to do so again would come at some sort of cost. B, Syria is more complicated than Libya.
Tens of thousands of refugees fleeing the fighting have crossed the border into Turkey, including defectors from the Syrian military. Now Turkey is threatening to respond to any border violations from Syria. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
The rules of engagement have changed for the Turkish armed forces after this incident. Any military element that approaches the Turkish border from Syria and poses a security risk will be regarded as a threat and treated as a military target.
Syrian tanks are continuing to shell rebel strongholds as the violence inside the country keeps escalating. Syrian commentator Afif Del says he does not believe there will be any international military intervention.
I think the international community intends to solve the crisis in a political way. There will be no war, and we should not exaggerate its possibility.
But the conflict continues to worsen, and Western analysts say there may come a point when NATO decides to act. Again, Andrew Tabler.
In the midst of that vacuum, you're going to have a lot of chaos, death, and destruction. And it's into that situation that you could have more massacres and possibly even intervention of some type, depending on what kind of atrocities are being carried out.
The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights estimates the conflict has left more than 15,000 people dead. Meredith Buel, VOA News, Washington.